Did somebody say nude yoga? Every Tuesday, welcome, beloved, to the first video episode of Light Alchemy podcast. My name is Lior. Allay. My pronouns are they, them. I'm excited to talk to you today about an upcoming charity event that I'm a part of. An organization called Queers for a Cause out of New York City is offering me the opportunity to teach a live yoga class. I'll drop the link to the tickets to sign up in the details below. So the class on March 2nd, it is clothed, but the premise is the same. Why do we do yoga? What is the point of that? And what does it mean for me as a queer person to teach yoga? I feel like I started with something super simple, something that is, I think, shared by every human, and that's desire to be connected, to be creative, and to be connected with yourself as well as in community. And I really wanted to cultivate that experience. I traveled all over the world for modeling and photography and learning more about breath work and learning more about my craft and different healing modalities, and I wouldn't trade the experience for anything. But with COVID and with my body, living with EDS has required me to reevaluate my relationship to my body and my relationship to capacity, how much I can do, how much I can afford to do in a given day, because I might be borrowing from tomorrow's energy. And so I had to stop traveling on top of COVID, and I'm a mom and a number of other factors. I had been curating experiences for groups of people all over in immersive art installations where we're building a set and the costuming and creating a story and an experience, and oftentimes games to help people relate. And workshops and play shops and cuddle parties and kink parties and ecstatic dance events. And there was so much rich experience that I wanted to bring back to my home because I felt a call to settle, and I wasn't sure how to do that while still maintaining all these beautiful aspects of connectedness and creativity that I had sampled and that had set me free. It was in these spaces that I was really able to flesh out safety in my body and how I wanted to show up in the world, what really felt good, what felt true in my body, because we need permission from others around us to feel like we can take the risk of being vulnerable. So when I had to stay home, I'm like, I want to keep this. I want to be this connected, but I also want to be safe. And so I've had to adapt, 15 years of traveling and creating and absorbing all of these different perspectives and modalities and sampling so many different means of healing and so many different healing spaces, which I'm so grateful for. I was like, how do I condense that? How do I bring that same sense of inner peace and clarity, really, safety in experimenting and being honest about who I am? So authenticity and clarity and freedom to share it, and people that celebrate that with me. I mean, there's nothing sweeter in the world. And it's really important to me to bring that experience and make it accessible to other queers and other people. I mean, whether you've struggled with trauma or mental illness or addiction or just a general lack of passion, even being just frustrated and dissatisfied can be its own trauma. There's so many different ways in which we're disconnected from ourselves, and I wanted to condense all of the things that brought me home to myself into something that I could share. And it's not a book. It's not a play or a painting or a dance number. This time it's a shared experience, and it's online. I've done shared experiences in a million different ways, but now we're relearning what it's like to play and take up space together authentically online. So I call these yoga classes a flow for erotic embodiment. And what does that mean? Does that mean that we're having sex in class? No, it doesn't. Surprise. It means, notice your social programming stepping in, right? It means that we are pursuing erotic authenticity in terms of the way Audre Lorde meant it, which is 100% honesty, being inside the body, accessing that somatic and spiritual information that lives and is communicated through this organism, this vehicle. And it's really hard to listen to those sensations and thoughts and memories and emotions, right? That's why we moderate our experience with substances. Like, what's the point of getting high ever? It's to change the way you feel. Why would we want to change the way we feel? Because it's challenging to deal with, right? And it's really helpful to have somebody who is holding space for your emotions, just to be witnessed. We are inherently social creatures. And when you're trying to uproot something as deep as shame, you need everybody around you. And that means, calling in your ancestors. That means like all of those things too. But it feels really good to be seen and have the gremlin inside of you that thinks you'll die if this vulnerability is witnessed, or this thing that you think you should be ashamed of, whether it's who you are, your sexuality, how you identify, your gender, the pronouns you use, even the books you like, what turns you on, what you fantasize about, all of these things. Anything that, silence that demon. You gotta do it collectively, because just to let that demon hear that it can be seen and the shadows can experience some light and nothing bad happens, that's coming home. My intention in creating these classes is a space that we can come home to each other, to ourselves, together, in a community of people who are holding you accountable, where even if you have been rushing around all week and you've been in the closet your whole life, or I don't know, for years, you can come with whatever baggage you have, with whatever fears you have, with whatever emotions you have, and just breathe through it and move through it and set aside time for you, where this isn't the yoga class where I'm gonna talk about your alignment in terms of what it should look like. This is all about how it feels. My guidance is mostly to give you invitations. Here are things I think you would like to try, because they're things that have given me access to my interior spaces. And by extension, I'm just giving you access to my archive, to my library of, I have been working on healing for as long as I have been conscious. And I don't want you to have to work that hard to get the information you deserve. I wish someone had spoken to me, had told me sooner. And the sad thing about queers of my generation in particular, a lot of our elders were lost to the AIDS epidemic. And a lot of our elders, our trans elders and siblings, are currently still being lost to bigotry and hatred. And, you know, the phobias that permeate our culture when we experience difference, which, for the record, is like, variation is what makes nature adaptable. Our differences are what make us valuable and interesting to each other. Like, enough. Like, please, if you notice something that is different, if you notice that you disagree, share your opinion. If you notice that there's something different about you, lean into that. Like, those are your superpowers. Those are the things that are going to make people fall in love with you who are like you. And they can't find you if you're hiding yourself. It took me way too long to come out and feel safe in this body and have control over my experience, whether I wanted to be tuned in to the sensations in my body and memories and feeling that, or whether I wanted to be out in the world and, you know, perceiving and being social outside of that. When you've experienced trauma, it's really hard to have any kind of control over that experience. That's what we talk about when we say we're triggered. What does that mean? It means that you didn't have control over what was happening to your experience. Memories aren't inherently a bad thing. Even the feeling of fear and panic isn't inherently a bad thing. It's when it becomes out of your control. So how do we learn to become more in a partnership with our body? We're not trying to control. We're trying to work with and receive clearly the information that's coming through this finely tuned vessel, this vehicle, this instrument for interpreting the world. Your senses, everything that you hear, smell, taste, touch, think of, and sense, they're here to help you perceive. And so when we become overwhelmed by stimuli, it's because we need more tools to moderate that experience. So in every single class that I teach, I try to offer a tool. And it might be the same tool and it might be a different tool, so that we can find what your key is. Every single person has a different key, but we all have a keyhole. Like, everybody has something that unlocks them, that allows them to access their inner space. It might be journaling, and it might be photography and self-portraiture. It might be dance. It might be singing. It might be, I don't know, making wire art. It might be gardening. I love planting. That's one of my go-to. Can you tell by all the greenery around? There's so many ways. It could even be sex, right? Like, let's be honest. Anything can be holy. It's just a matter of figuring out how to make that experience pleasurable for you and figure out which of those experiences you desire. And so each of my classes are sort of experiment. Sometimes we do chanting and we bring the voice in. Sometimes we spend the whole time on the floor. Sometimes the whole time is spent standing and flowing, and it's more active. Sometimes we meditate the whole time. It's a matter of who shows up, what your body needs. Maybe we do tapping. Maybe we need to just like debrief and be like, hey, can I just like vent for like 10 seconds? I just need to get something off my chest, and then breathe. Like, we're here to hold space for you. I'm here to remind you that you're loved, that you're completely perfect the way that you are, that your desire is a compass that is showing you what is true for you in your experience, and that is really, really important. And please trust yourself and your body. And I'm here to offer support in returning home to yourself and connecting to other people who are just like you, and inviting you to constantly meet yourself over and over again every day with the grace and compassion that allows you to evolve and change. It's especially important, I think, for queers to have access to educators whose experience matches their own. I have never taken a yoga class taught by someone who was, queer and trauma informed until I was already in training to become a teacher. And I sought them out. I had to find them. No one was like, oh, this is just part of the programming, right? And it can be really frustrating. And sometimes we don't even notice like what the difference would really be like if we had somebody leading who understood just naturally. You didn't have to speak up. They anticipated your needs. They anticipated the ways in which you might want to be affirmed, or the ways in which you might want to touch yourself, or the ways in which you might want to move and breathe. And I wish there was more. I wish there was more of that. It's so healing to have an experience which is informed by someone who shares so much of the same struggles and pressures and traumas. And my goal is to give you a space to explore safely, comfortably, to have a resource to lean on, to have a community that cares. And I do the same thing in the Going Beyond the Lens events. You see me share and talk about, and I'll drop those links below too, just in the event that anybody hasn't heard and needs to catch up. It's fine. There is a free art share this Saturday, by the way. It's from 1 to 3 Eastern time. Completely free. Submit your art, uncensored. We want to see what you made. We want to see everything that you make. Because just like the way you move and everything that you make, it's a part of you, and we're interested in authenticity here. Come be real with us. You have the option of joining on Patreon if you want to access all of my pre-recorded studio classes, over 12 hours of classes to practice on your own, as well as access to all of the live classes included at the Yogini level. Or you can buy a one-time ticket if you don't want to commit. That feels like too much in an investment. There's sliding scale for those of us who are stable and able to generate growth. And then there is a few reserved tickets for BIPOC, trans, disabled, neurodiverse, and fat individuals who want to come and are economically needing some support. So I try to make these things as accessible as possible. It is something you deserve. It's time that you deserve. It's tools that you deserve, that you should have been given by your grandparents and your school and your church, and that should be affirmed everywhere. And we're not there yet. But this is how we get there, right? By sharing the information. So I'm really excited to continue this series. It's every Tuesday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We practice for about 60 minutes. There's usually a little bit of troubleshooting before and after. It's a very relaxing flow. You have always the option to be autonomous. I really encourage this. I am the type of yoga teacher that says, tell me no. You can say that you don't like something, or I'll give you other options for things that you can do in case you don't like anything that I suggest. And everything I do suggest, I give you levels and options so that depending on your body, depending on what parts make you up and what feels good, you have the ability to control your experience and get what you want out of it. It's all for you. It's all for you. I'm not kidding. This is a safe space for you to show up, just the way you are. I hope you've enjoyed this sneak peek of what's to come. I hope to see you in class. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a comment or an email. I am happy to address you publicly or privately. Your choice. You deserve this. I would be honored to gift you these experiences. If it feels right for you to show up in whatever capacity you can, I hope to see you there. I hope that what I've shared today has been valuable for you. If anything has resonated or you think of someone else who might benefit from these tools or these experiences, please share this with them, and remember to like the video and subscribe for more. Of course, I also have the free newsletter if you want to get direct invitations from me to your mailbox every month, once a month. Again, you have to be 18 years or up to get this newsletter because it does include uncensored nude content, but again, nothing explicit. That's always behind a paywall. You know, nothing is free on the internet when it comes to spicy stuff. Sex workers. I forgot that. If you don't jerk off to your friend's porn, like, what are you doing? I mean, are you still, like, watching Pornhub? So, it's 2021. Support your friends, buy their smut.